My name is Andrew McPeak, and I'm the Vice President of Content and Training at Growing Leaders. On January 30th, we hosted a long webinar where we talked about a lot of really exciting changes that are coming in 2025. And if you were unable to attend that, or if you just didn't want to watch a whole long webinar back, we totally get it. So we wanted to record a shorter video for you where we condense some of our announcements and give it to you in a shorter form. We think you're really going to enjoy this video as we unpack some of the exciting resources and changes that are coming in 2025. So let's get started. All right, friends, let's dive in. Today, our conversation is really about the future. And what I mean by that is there's been a lot of things going on behind the scenes for a long time, and we're really excited to share with you some of the things that we are headed towards, some of the goals that we've set, and some of the changes, really exciting changes that are coming. I want to start, in order to talk about the future, I want to look towards the past. There are two founders that our organization comes from, and those two founders have created two different things that are coming together today. Now, both of these founders will probably be familiar to you. One of them is, of course, John C. Maxwell. John is the most well-known leadership communicator in the world. He has written so many books, sold over 38 million copies of books in his lifetime. He's an amazing, amazing person. And he's founded a lot of different things, and one of them is the organization that we come from. Now, our other founder is Dr. Tim Elmore. And if you're not familiar with Tim, Tim worked under John Maxwell for 20 years in the 80s and in the 90s. And then Tim he had this passion for reaching the next generation of leaders. And so he kind of stepped away from John in order to start Growing Leaders. So these two leaders who got their start really together are now coming together, which is very exciting for us. So these two leaders actually started two different organizations, the John Maxwell Leadership Foundation and Growing Leaders. It was founded by Tim Elmore. And not only that, these two organizations also created two different curriculums. So some of you listening to this might be super familiar with iLead and the peer-to-peer leadership development model there. Others of you will be familiar with Habitudes, which is an image-based learning system. These two curriculums are also coming together. So we've got two organizations coming together and two curriculums coming together. So I want to talk to you about what we're going to be known as now, moving forward. These two organizations coming together are going to be called Growing Leaders. Growing Leaders is powered by Maxwell Leadership. We actually consider ourselves to be the youth transformation arm of Maxwell Leadership. So we're thinking all about how are we taking the leadership principles that we know come from John Maxwell and from Tim Elmore, and how are we communicating those principles to the next generation in the U.S. and around the world. And our curriculum, as it comes together, is going to be called iLead. We love the name iLead. We feel like it says exactly what our curriculum is doing. And the main kind of thrust of our curriculum moving forward will be that we want to give young people the opportunity to actually practice the art of leadership. So it's not us, the teachers and the facilitators leading. It's the students themselves who are leading. And that's going to be a center point of our curriculum moving forward. And our organization, underneath of Maxwell Leadership, our mission is to add value to leaders who are therefore multiplying value or adding value to others. Of course, this means adding value to you all as teachers and leaders, but we're also adding value to students. And we believe that when we add leadership values to students, it's going to create transformation in ways that we couldn't even have imagined. That's our mission. Now, what's really cool is these two organizations, Growing Leaders and iLead, even before they came together, they have equipped over 10 million students around the world in both of their organizational lifetimes. But we don't want to stop there. So that's multiple decades it took us to get to 10 million students. We look at the next 3 years, and our goal is to double this number. We want to go from 10 million to 20 million. And we believe in the next 3 years, we are going to impact 20 million students in our lifetime around the world. And really, even that is just the beginning for us. So that's kind of who we are and where we're going. Let's talk about what's happening this year in 2025. So we got some exciting changes. I want to talk to you about three main categories. The first one is our curriculum, iLead. I want to talk to you about teacher leadership and our emphasis on that. And then finally, I want to talk to you about student transformation and what we want to do in regards to actually creating touch points for students to be further empowered. But in order to get to all those changes, I actually want to start first with our non-negotiables, the things about us that are never going to change. So we may change a lot of things moving forward, but we know that these few things that I want to talk through are not going to change. Number one, we are committed to creating the world's greatest student leadership content. Already, John Maxwell has created the greatest leadership content for adults with Maxwell Leadership, and we want to take that content and make it the best in the world for students. We're committed to the highest quality leadership development resources that are out there in the world. Secondly, we want to always make sure that we come back to a peer-to-peer leadership development model. Now, I've already talked about why this is important, but it's crucial to us that if you're going to tell students you are a leader, it's important that you actually give them opportunities to lead. So our curriculum is always going to have opportunities in it for students to lead one another. That's what we call peer-to-peer leadership. We are also going to, moving forward, continue to focus primarily on schools in the U.S. and around the world. And why do we do that? Well, it's because schools are where the kids are. We want to impact millions of students around the world, and we know that one thing that those students have in common around the world is that they're all going to school. So that's where we're going to start. Now, there will be other opportunities and things that we're doing in other places, community groups and nonprofits and all kinds of things, but we are going to focus primarily on schools. We're also committed to making sure that our resources are available globally. So this is not just a U.S. strategy. In fact, already around the world, a vast majority of that 10 million number that I just quoted to you and our impact thus far has actually happened not in the U.S., but outside of the U.S., in Central and South America with our Spanish platform, and in several other places around the world. Number 5, we are committed to always having a free version of our iLead content available. We never want financial resources to be the reason that a student doesn't get to be developed as a leader. We believe leadership content, world-class leadership content, should be accessible to students all over the world, no matter what kind of resources they have available to them. So there will always be a free version of iLead that is accessible to folks around the world. And then finally, we also want to be committed to creating world-class teacher leadership resources as well. We believe firmly and foundationally that you can't really develop students if you're not also developing yourself. And so we're going to create lots of resources for teachers to continue to develop themselves as leaders as well. So those are our non-negotiables. Now let's get into some of the things that are coming in 2025. First, I want to talk about iLead. And in just a second, I'm actually going to let our Director of Curriculum, Patrick Irwin, get into more detail about our curriculum. But I want to share with you a few high-level ideas first. When we looked at, as our curriculum team, bringing together these two curriculums, iLead and Habitudes, what was remarkable to us is how similar they actually were. So when you look at these two curriculums, they both included very, very similar approaches and methodologies, very, very similar foundational messages. And so because of that, we actually found a lot of easy touch points for these two things to come together. So as we looked at both curriculums, look at this. These are all the things they share in common. First, they both focus on leadership and values. Both of them utilize images, metaphors, and stories. Both of them focus on conversation and discussion. Both of them have moments where there are peer-led and read aloud. Now, iLead had more of a focus on this than Habitudes, and we're going to follow iLead's methodology on that, but both of them included this, and so that was not an unusual move. Both of them include self-assessment opportunities for students to ask themselves, how well am I practicing this leadership value myself? Both of them include practical action steps. Both of them have a sequential and spiraling curriculum. Both of them had grade level appropriate lessons. And perhaps most importantly for some of you watching this, both of them include minimal teacher preparation. There are lots of other curriculums out there, leadership and otherwise, emotional intelligence, and many of them take a whole long time for teachers to have to prepare. In fact, we've heard of curriculums that it takes years of preparation in order to be able to teach it in a classroom. And we just feel like that sort of time barrier shouldn't be there. And so we're going to make it quick and easy for a teacher or a facilitator to begin an iLead lesson. So all of these things that you see here are going to continue to be available in the iLead curriculum moving forward. So what we want to do is in 2025, the changes will happen this summer. So they're not happening right now. They're going to happen this summer. We are going to shift to our new version of iLead. And the most exciting thing about that new version of iLead is that it's going to be available kindergarten all the way through our senior year of high school. So if you've been used to Habitudes, you know we have not had an elementary curriculum. And in iLead, we've only piloted some elementary resources. But moving forward, starting this summer, we are going to have a full K through 12 iLead program, different lessons every single year, and it's going to match the developmental level of the students. So let me walk through what these different elements are going to be called. Of course, for 9th through 12th grade, we're going to have iLead High School. For 6th through 8th grade, we will have iLead Middle School. And then for elementary, we're going to have two different developmental levels that we're addressing. In 3rd through 5th grade, we're going to have iLead Kids. And in kindergarten through 2nd grade, we're going to have what we call iLead Little Kids. Now, why do we create this separation? Well, the answer is pretty obvious. If you're in elementary schools, there are very different developmental levels when it comes to a student's ability to read in elementary school. And so we've divided this because we're going to slightly change the format. For iLead Little Kids, we're going to build it around the reality that we've got brand new readers. So they might their vocabulary might not be as developed as other students who are older inside of that elementary school. And so the program is going to be built around a heavier degree of teacher facilitation. But starting in 3rd grade and all the way through our senior year of high school, students are going to be invited to do some read aloud moments on their own and begin to practice that peer-to-peer leadership model. So with iLead Kids, we're going to have, it's going to be developed around developing readers. For iLead Middle School, to be around growing readers, and for iLead High School, around steady readers. So what we're going to do is continue to focus on that peer-to-peer student leadership model, but more will be required of those students as they get older and older and get better and better at both reading as well as practicing the principles of leadership. Now, the other thing I want to say foundationally about iLead before I let Patrick go into more depth is that iLead is going to also focus on 16 core values. So these 16 core values that you see in front of you are the same ones that iLead has focused on for years and years and years. But we want to say that these iLead core values are going to be central all throughout the K through 12 program. So in kindergarten through 2nd grade, they're going to learn these 16 core values of leadership. But guess what? In 3rd through 5th grade, they're going to learn these same 16 values again. Again, we're going to approach it slightly differently, different developmental level, maybe a different metaphor here or there, a different story here or there, definitely different discussion questions and activities. But as students grow, we're going to continue to come back to these same values over and over and over. So these values will be taught kindergarten through 2nd grade, again 3rd through 5th grade, again in middle school, and again in high school. We're going to keep coming back to these core principles, foundational principles of leadership that come from John Maxwell himself. So to get into more detail about what this is going to look like and how this is going to play out over that many years worth of curriculum, I'd like to invite our friend Patrick Irwin. He's our director of curriculum, and he's been working hard, he and his team, to get this program ready to go and ready to go this summer. So I'm going to welcome Patrick now. Patrick, take it away.
All right, team. It's good to meet you. My name's Patrick. Like Andrew said, I'm the curriculum director, and I'm here to walk you through some of our scope of what our curriculum is going to cover and then show you some content examples. So let's jump in. The first thing I want to show you is our values wheel, right? So we built the curriculum around 16 core values. Each of those divides evenly into 4s and covers one of the 4 domains of emotional intelligence, right? It's not an emotional intelligence curriculum, it's a leadership curriculum, but leadership and emotional intelligence go so well hand in hand, and we wanted to make sure that we touched on each portion of emotional intelligence to help students become more well-rounded, better leaders. 16 lessons is not enough, and so when we started developing out the curriculum, we added 32 leadership skills, habits, and attitudes for a total of 48 total lessons. Now, sounds like a lot. Not every level will cover all of these, right? Each level, elementary, middle, and high, will make sure to touch on that inner wheel. And then as we get into the older levels of curriculum and more years to do it, we start touching on the outer portion of the wheel. I'm not going to belabor the point. If you want to pause the video at any point and study this a little bit more, you can certainly do that. But let me zoom in on self-awareness and let you see what the values and skills and habits and attitudes that we're talking about in self-awareness, self-management, social awareness. And again, my pauses are for you to pause your video if you would like to. And finally, relationship management. One thing to be aware of, though, is that we're a little bit even more intentional about designing this, in that half of the curriculum, half of the lessons, 24 of them, covers self-leadership. How does a student lead themselves well? How do they become aware of themselves? How do they manage themselves well? The other half is how do they lead others well? How do they become socially aware and manage their relationships? When you look at the top half of the curriculum teaches them to have a good perspective of themselves, to develop themselves and how they see themselves, and then how they see themselves fitting into society, being teachable, having a good attitude, respecting others, having a perspective and a vision for their life, etc. The bottom half of the curriculum, or the wheel, is how do they make an impact? How do they impact their own life by developing resilience, setting their priorities, making good choices? How do they develop their relationships through influence, forgiveness, setting the initiative? As you can see, as you start slicing this wheel up, it covers just about everything you could possibly want in terms of developing a student as a leader. But what does it look like as we move from K through 12? For the elementary curriculum, we have written up 36 total lessons. Now, each grade level will cover 6 values. I won't tell you which 6, that's not important right now, but kindergarten has 6, first has 6, second has 6. Right? That adds up to 18, which is what you see on your screen. And then when we get to 3rd grade, we go back and repeat the same values in a different way, in a different context, with a little bit more depth. Each of those 6 values per grade level is divided up into 4 bite-sized chunks. And so you would take a whole year to teach 6 of these values, 3 per semester. You can divide it up however you want. And each of those values is divided up into 4 small chunks to be taught in 10 to 15 minute increments, say a morning meeting circle time, or whatever that looks like in your school. As we move out of elementary into middle school, we have a little bit more time and a little bit more ability to bring curriculum to the table. And so we designed 36 middle school lessons, 12 per year. So the initial 12 to 16 cover that inner wheel, and then we start to expand out from there. 6th grade, 12 lessons. 7th grade, 12 lessons. 8th grade, 12 lessons. When we get to high school, we have 4 years of high school, and so we're able to get to all 48 lessons, starting with the inner wheel of values, moving on to getting more specific in our skills, habits, and attitudes section. So when we come back around to character, you can see up there at the top, then the second time we're teaching character and personal values. The third time we're teaching character and integrity and how they're related. You see how that works. As they go through K through 12, they will touch that inner wheel 4 times. So 4 times on character, 4 times on self-worth. And it spirals on itself all the way up through 12th grade when they launch out into the world a little bit more ready because of the efforts that we made together with you, our partners. But of course you're wondering, what's in it, Patrick? So let's take a look at it. Every single K through 12 lesson includes access to our iLeadOnline platform, lesson plans, student activities, and the resources for students to do peer-to-peer engagement. They also include presentation decks for you to help guide them through the lessons, extension libraries for you to take the learning further if you would like. They have what we call multimodal delivery. Every single one of our curricula has digital delivery and also print options. However you choose to do that, we want to meet your school where they're at in terms of the technology environment, whether or not they have mobile devices, laptops, tablets, or you just prefer old-fashioned paper, we have a solution for you. And every lesson has at-home resources, parent resources for you to be able to continue the learning at home by sharing the lessons with students, families, community, guardians, whatever that looks like in your community. But we want it to involve everyone in the learning, students, teachers, administrators, and community. But other than that, each grade band, as I call them, is a little bit different. So let's take a look at kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, or as we affectionately call it, iLead little kids. I'm going to start with the very first lesson. It's a kindergarten lesson on choices. We teach them that choice is a gift and they need to be thankful that they have the ability to make choices and use it wisely. That's why that gift is right there on the screen. Our kindergarten, first grade, second grade curriculum focuses in on words and developing their ability to see these sight words, building out their vocabulary, having their teacher read aloud to them so they're starting to look at the words and apply them in their life, but also learning about what a choice is and what good choices are. But we really want them engaged. We want activities. We want discussion. We want crafts. We want arts. All the things that make that elementary school space awesome. And so the teacher decks have the activities on the screen, and the student resources have the activities on paper. So for example, the one we were just looking at right here on your screen, right? And so teacher's helping them through it. Student has their paper. Maybe they're in a small group or a circle or whatever. These are printable. Pass them right out. We don't have digital versions of these necessarily because kindergarten, first grade, second grade, we're still dealing with paper and crayons. So print these out, have the students work through them. Teacher acts as a guide through it all. But there's a lot of material and activities and ways for them to get engaged with these lessons as they go through it. Lots of drawing, filling in the blank, action steps, making choices. As we move into third through fifth grade, we get into iLead Kids. That's our third through fifth grade. We go from little kids to kids. We didn't call it iLead Big Kids. That's too much, right? So what does this look like? Our third grade lesson on choices, we're still talking about choice as a gift, but you can start to see a shift. From third grade on, I teach that our iLead lessons are very much like an Oreo cookie. The teacher does the cookie part, the students do the cream, right? So as the teacher, I'm going to work my students through this discussion prompt that's on the screen. Here's 3 benefits of choice. Which one's most valuable to you? Let's talk about it real quick before we get into the lesson. We want to make sure that we define these leadership values. And so every single leadership value is defined clearly on the sheet and in the workbook for everybody to understand what it is that we're talking about. And then the cream part of the Oreo, we kick into our small groups, right? These are either worksheets that you printed out, workbooks that you purchased, or digital versions of the worksheets that your students are going through. There's lots of different ways in, but what do they look like, Patrick? They look like this, right? That opening activity is on their paper, so they're engaging with you and their worksheet at the same time. There's a drawing activity. And then we dive into the reading, writing, reflecting part of it, right? We always encourage them to do a little reading together, to share in that, to reflect on themselves, to share their thoughts. And then the rest of the cookie shows up, and I, as the teacher, do a pair share activity. I want to know what they're thinking. I want to know what they just talked about. I want to know what their action steps are. So we do a quick share out before we move on to the rest of our day. Each little part of the lesson and choices, and again, there's 4 of those, will have a different opening activity and a different closing activity. And the readings will cover, obviously they'll be different. It's not the same reading every time. So it's a little bit different, but the flow is always the same. Cookie, cream, cookie. But it's that cream where students are reading and discussing and reflecting and talking, self-evaluating, that the real peer leadership part of iLead starts to shine. The teacher is the guide. The students are leading each other. Middle school, very much kind of the same. The images get a little bit more mature and the themes change slightly, but we're still talking about choice as a gift. When we start to dig into our middle school and high school curriculum, that's when we start to offer choices. You as the teacher, again, the cookie part, you can offer your students, you want to watch a movie clip or an activity. The movie clips are short. The activities are also short, where we kick off the lesson. We'll watch a movie clip and discuss what choices were made. We'll do an activity that requires the students to make choices. However you want to get in or out of it. Each of the lessons has the ability to do either or. I guess both would also be an option. After that, then we get into our workbook part where students are reading and leading each other. As we get to middle school and high school, we have offered the ability for mobile access to the workbooks. And so a student could scan a QR code with their tablet or their phone, and they get a mobile-friendly version of the workbook. They can type in this URL, or you can share it to them, and they open a PDF that they can type on. Or you can print it out and hand it to them, however works best for you. You could even purchase the workbooks from us, and then students have their own copies. However you choose to do that as a school, as a class, as a cohort. When you're asking yourself, okay, how do they work together? They work together kind of like this, right? So I'm friends on the phone, I'm on the paper, right? Let's go ahead and get through this, work on this choice as a gift, right? So here's the summary, choice as a gift. I'm on my paper, flip to the second page, same exact content, different mode of delivery. As I swipe to the next screen on my phone, I see that I'm at the bottom of this page, and then we just continue on. Life's choices, life's choices. The value of making good choices, the value of making good choices. Content's the same. Delivery is different. You decide what's best for your students or allow them to choose. It is a lesson on choice. To close out, I always allow our teachers the ability to talk to their students about their self-evaluation, about the action steps they're going to take to make better choices. There's a page in their workbook that mirrors this. It's on the screen, so it brings us back together, allows you, the facilitator, to bring some closure to the lesson. Speaking of closure, once we get to middle school, we start to allow them the access to student flashcards. They can scan this, or you can send them the link to it to look at later. But when they get it on their phone, should they have one, they get the same value in the idea that choice is a gift, and then swipe through to see the content behind the lesson to allow them to continue the discussion at home. iLead High School, very much the same. The content changes slightly. When we get to choices in high school, we're talking about choices as a trade-off. Our Habitudes partners know immediately what this is. If you're an iLead partner, you'll understand it immediately, right? Similar to middle school, they'll have activities and movie clips to kick it off. I'm not going to show you that again. Their workbooks are slightly different when we're talking about choices as a trade-off, but the same idea. Swiping through, reading, you can see that the summaries are the same. You can see that when we get to every choice being a trade-off, that the content is the same, and they're able to work through it together, having discussions, taking notes, sharing, etc. Our action steps with the high schoolers get a little bit more prescriptive. We want to challenge them to really take more specific action. So in this case, we want to challenge them to stop doing certain things, make that trade-off to make room for things that they must do to be successful. Start making those choices that guide them towards their brighter future. And then with our high school lessons, just like with middle school, they have the ability to scan the flashcard and take it with them. One key difference with our high school lessons is that these come with a video. It's called a Habitude video, so they're developing better habits and attitudes. But this video is students being interviewed, experts being interviewed, animation, history, etc. You'll definitely want to take a look at these. They're really well done. But it digs in a little bit deeper with students their age, talking about trade-offs that they've made or whatever lesson that you happen to be on. And those are all included in the curriculum. There's additional resources. Every lesson comes with an iLead at Home flashcard. These can be shared with parents or community members. They can also be purchased for use anywhere. And you can see they have the information, but additional questions for discussions at home or in the locker room, wherever you might be able to use these additional resources. And we will also have for purchase poster sets if you want to display the lesson that you're on. Each of them corresponds with the lessons that you're teaching in your grade band. It makes sure the student sees the image that corresponds with the lesson, etc., etc. You see some examples there on your screen. Last but not least, we mentioned iLeadOnline. This is our custom platform that is going to make delivery and access to the resources so very easy for you, the teacher. There is no platform for students. There's no student logins, passwords, no student IDs, no student information at all. This is for you, the teacher. So you see on your screen at the very top all the access that is available there, but at the bottom the lessons are divided into the value that they cover. I'm going to stick with choices, but I want you to notice that every single one of those is an image that helps the student remember the value. It's not just talking about respect, but it's talking about respect in terms of saluting each other, right? Encouragement in terms of how people need to be filled up with encouragement, just like hot air fills up a hot air balloon. They'll remember the the images and the concepts behind them. But let's take a look at what you'll see as a teacher. When I click on this, it's going to open up that lesson page for choices. So for you, the image, what am I covered? Choice is a gift. The summary that the students will read about. The definition of the leadership value, also included in the slide deck. I just didn't show it to you. Every lesson provides learning targets for you to be able to share or post or just know what it is that we're talking to students about. But you're wondering to yourself, how long is this going to take me to get ready for? Let me tell you very quickly, 3 to 5 minutes ideally once you get the hang of it. Your lesson plan will be available here. If you're printing the student resources, it'll be available there. So in your preparation, get your lesson plan, read it, familiarize yourself with it, print out the student workbooks if that's something you're going to do. That is it. When it's time to teach the lesson, the slides are just underneath there, along with the digital version of the workbook if you want to share that out. But you can make that sucker full screen and work your way through it. Now, I told you earlier, this is a middle school lesson, so it provides the option of choice. I can do an activity or I can do a movie clip. Let's say you chose movie clip, probably what your students are going to choose. The activities are really fun, but they're probably going to choose the movie. When you click on it, a YouTube video opens right up to be able to teach, watch and then discuss. I won't watch the whole thing. You'll get to see this for yourself. But after you watch the video with your students, the very next slide is a rapid response. Based on what we just watched, how did you see choices play out? And have a quick discussion. Now the students are starting to think about choices and has cued their mind in on the lesson, right? And then you jump in. Let's talk about our leadership value. Let's get into our workbooks. Let's talk about our action steps. Let's review quickly. Every lesson has a review to make sure that every student understands the key points, and then scan and take this lesson with you. It really is that quick. You as the teacher really just need to decide or help them decide how you want to start, how you want to end, and the workbook part will take care of itself. That's where students are in small groups, reading, writing, reflecting, discussing, self-evaluating, committing to action steps. You're just guiding them through it using the resources we provide right there. And I know I went through this really quickly, but also you will have the ability to go through these yourselves as these become available. Underneath the slide deck are the mobile-friendly workbooks. Already showed you an example of that. The flashcard and the iLead at Home links are here if you want to share those in a different way. That's your follow-up section. The final section I want to show you before I sign this off and pass it back to Andrew is the extension library. Elementary through high school, every single lesson comes with an extension library. The extensions that we're talking about are additional activities, additional movie clips, case studies to read and learn about how choices impact people in real life. Writing prompts, if you choose to have your students do a little bit more writing practice. We have lots of persuasive essays, writing prompts, reflection prompts, some of them written by students to be able to engage the materials a little bit further. We will provide PDF versions of books and chapters and articles for students to read and learn about people that have made choices and how it impacted their lives. And finally, project ideas, individual projects and group projects for the students to be able to take the learning a little bit further outside the classroom, whatever that looks like for you. These are true extensions of the lesson. They do the lesson, and if you choose to extend it, we give you as many ideas as possible. The page you're looking at, our extension library, is printable. You can print part or all of it, no problem there. And if you have an idea for an extension, this is a direct link to me and be able to tell me, I think you should use this video. This activity is awesome. Have you seen this article, Patrick? You should include that. Direct link to me for you to be able to let me know what you're thinking and how to do that. Last but not least, in our platform, I'm not going to show you, but down in the, I can click on it, a direct link to our help center. If you have an issue, something's not working, you have a question, the platform allows you to communicate with us directly. You don't have to find an email address, text, get your tech support person. We're right here for you. So the platform enables us to communicate, deliver, facilitate, and engage our students in one place without having to go to multiple different places and gather resources, etc. We think you're really gonna love it. That's the gist of Habitudes, my friends. 48 values, skills, habits, attitudes that are going to help your students get ready for leadership. We're engaging students from kindergarten through 12th grade, getting them ready for real life, and we put it all in one place for you, the teacher facilitator, to be able to do this very valuable activity without a whole bunch of extra time, energy, and effort. We think you're going to love it. Andrew, back to you.
Thank you so much, Patrick, for digging into that with us. I'm really excited to wrap up our time together by sharing about the last two pieces I wanted to get into. So we've talked about iLead, our curriculum. I want to talk about teacher leadership next. Now, we've said it before. You heard me say that we believe that you can't really develop students if you're not developing yourself. In fact, this is kind of how we draw it up. We see every school as an ecosystem, right? We want that student to be changed, but the reality is, if you really want a student to change, you also need to shape the world around that student. That's the community that they're in, the teachers and leaders who are developing them, and their families as well. So what we want to do is actually continue to focus in more in-depth ways on developing teachers as leaders and putting lots of resources out there to do that, starting with things that are actually free. So already last year, we launched something called the Next Gen Leadership Insider. This is a free weekly email that goes out and talks all about the next generation. So we get into next gen research and give you lots of great advice and other resources that you can use to better understand and connect with the next gen students that you're leading. If you're not signed up for that, we'll give you plenty of opportunities to sign up for that. It's a great free weekly resource that's going to help develop you in your understanding of the emerging generation. Another free resource we have is our new podcast. We just launched it last fall, so we're on season 2 now of the School on a Mission podcast. This is co-hosted by myself and our one of our fearless leaders, Gina Watts. We have a great time talking about the things in schools, but beyond just reading, writing, and arithmetic. We talk about schools as a place for students to actually change their lives, to develop a trajectory and define purpose and values and all the really important stuff. And we talk about that in this really great podcast. So if you haven't picked it up, if you're a podcast listener, just look for School on a Mission. That podcast is right now in season 2. Season 2 is coming out right now. We think you're going to find it a really fun resource. We've got a shorter length, so it's perfect for your commute to school every morning or in the afternoons on your way home. And we hope that you find that to be a really fun resource. We are also committed to putting out ebooks. We know ebooks are a shorter, easier way for teachers to engage with some new ideas and new learning. So we're going to be putting out ebooks every single quarter, new resources for teachers to better understand and connect with students and better understand their own role, both as teachers and as leaders. Our first ebook that's going to come out very soon is focusing on teachers and leadership. What does it mean to be a teacher leader inside of your building? We think you're really going to love that new ebook that's coming out. Along with ebooks, we're also going to be releasing courses. Now, these courses will have a cost to them, but what they're going to do is allow people to take the principles of the ebook and actually apply them to their own leadership journey. So that's going to be a really fun resource. Those courses are going to come out in a new resource library that we'll be releasing later this year, where you'll get access to a whole swath of courses so you can continue your own growth and development. On top of that, we're also going to have amazing next generation leadership development speakers as well. So a whole host of people who can come to your campus or to your conference and speak to you about all of the topics we focus on here at Growing Leaders. So if you're interested in that, more resources and opportunities will come out about that. And finally, I am most excited for this. We're looking to launch teacher leadership cohorts later on this year. So if you've got teachers in your building who you really see as, man, they're just next level leaders and I'd love to see them developed, these are going to be small communities that teachers can join over a short window of time, just a couple of months together. They're going to be joining together with other teacher leaders from around the country and even around the world who are developing themselves and join a community of like-minded individuals. It's going to be a really exciting resource, so look out for more details about that coming soon. All right, let's talk about student transformation to wrap up our time together. We know, and I've been doing this for well over a decade now, every time we go into schools, we find a very similar thing. And that is that there's a whole swath of students who really love developing themselves as leaders. They love the curriculum and jumping in and talking about this stuff. But I find that there are 1 or 2 students in every single classroom that have a deeper, invested interest in developing themselves as a leader. In fact, right now, if you think of your school or maybe a specific classroom that you've been in recently, you can probably think of who that student is. They just show an extra leadership potential and excitement around sharing themselves or utilizing their gifts as a leader. We want to begin to provide some extra opportunities for those students, the students who say, I want more. I love this iLead thing, but I want to take the next step. What's the next step? Well, we've got an answer. In 2024, we piloted something brand new called the Maxwell Leadership Student Ambassador Program. This was an opportunity. It was a gathering, a physical gathering of students. We held it in the Atlanta area, and we had 3 different gatherings where students got together to develop themselves as leaders. I want to share a few of the photos from those amazing days that we spent together. These students came together to learn the definition of leadership, to think about their own leadership journey, and begin to get some of the tools they could utilize to better exercise that leadership ability on the students around them. So these kids right now have gotten resources, and they're literally using those resources to speak to their fellow students, to lead different small groups, and even help out their teachers inside of their classrooms. And really, this is just the beginning. We've had about 60 students go through this program, and we want to see the Maxwell Student Leadership Program expand beyond just this pilot that we did in Atlanta. We want to see it come to other states. We want to see it go around the world. And so look out for more exciting announcements that are coming about the Maxwell Leadership Student Ambassador Program. And if you've got a couple of students already in mind that you think might really love to come be a part of something like this, keep those students in mind, because new opportunities are going to be coming soon for them. All right, so we've talked about a lot today. I want to recap everything that we've talked about just so you get a really quick understanding, a reminder about all the things we talked about. Number one, our organization coming together, the Maxwell Leadership Foundation, as well as Growing Leaders, are going to come together and be called Growing Leaders. We are going to take our two programs, iLead and Habitudes. They're going to come together in a new multimodal curriculum, and we are going to be calling it iLead moving forward. Number three, iLead is going to move to a new home. You got some glimpses of what it's going to look like. We're calling it iLeadOnline, and that's going to be the place where you're going to be able to get all of your resources in an easy one login format. It's going to be great. Number four, we've got all new teacher leadership resources coming your way. More will be announced even as the year goes on. And then finally, we just talked about it, but we are widening our Maxwell Leadership Student Ambassador Program and providing opportunities for more students to join. We're really excited about that. Okay, so let's talk about your next step. Now that you've watched this video, you're starting to get excited about what's coming. Let me tell you what you should be looking out for next. Number one, in just a second, I'm going to give you an opportunity to scan a QR code. It's going to allow you to fill out a short form. And when you fill out that form, you're going to get free samples of this brand new iLead curriculum. So these are not final, but they're very much what the curriculum is going to look like when it launches later this summer. We also are going to want you to attend one of our Q&A webinars that's going to happen this spring. So every single month, we're going to get together and answer your questions. So you probably have a lot of different questions about what this is going to look like. These Q&A webinars, monthly Q&A webinars, are going to be your opportunity to answer, to get your questions answered. Number three, we want you to work with your partner services representative to lock in your resources for this fall. If you're ready to go ahead and talk to us and go, hey, I'm ready, let's lock in iLead, I want to get access to this, you can actually talk to a partner services coordinator right now and sign up for that. We'll give you information when you fill out that form. And then finally, look out for more exciting announcements and updates that are come out later this year. Because you fill out the form on this next slide, you will get information about all the exciting announcements coming, so you want to make sure you do that. So here it is. This is your QR code. Make sure you scan that, fill out that form. It's only going to take you about 30 seconds, and then we'll make sure you get those free resources and you get all the exciting other announcements that are coming later this spring and into the summer and the fall. We are so excited about 2025 and all the things that it's going to bring. We want to thank you so much for joining us on this video, for diving in and getting excited with us about all the fun changes that are coming this summer. It's going to be really, really great. Thank you so much for partnering with us in our mission to develop millions of students with leadership values. We know that we have the most important job in the world, that you have the most important job in the world, and that is developing the next generation of leaders. Thank you so much for your time. Super excited to get these resources into your hands.